Hello and welcome to Afternoon Equality. My name is Christy, and today I'm talking to Evelyn Wong, who is a nonfiction writer and a book editor. She's also developing a program for other people who maybe don't know if they can write or are like thinking about wanting to write, but helping them to develop their books, write their books, and do it within 5 months or less. So I'm very excited to talk with her. We're going to go through her journey of becoming a writer and the importance of all of us being able to lift our voices and share our stories. It's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait to start this. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Christy?
I'm really good. You're in Vancouver, correct?
Yes. So I'm on the West Coast in Vancouver, Canada. And yeah, like it is kind of warm here. Let's
Yeah.
just start with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I guess like I don't really think of Canada as a warm place, but no one really does, I guess. But it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
there's just like a massive heat wave happening. Like, it is no joke.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping things will cool down just so that we don't have a drought or anything in the actual summertime. Like
Yeah.
that would just be really
I
bad.
think California's been in the drought for like a decade. Like, I don't even know if they count it as a drought anymore. Like, it's just normal.
It's everyday life now.
Exactly. There's nothing special anymore. But so we actually connected because you posted in Asian Hustle Network or Asian Creative Network asking for people to talk to you about critical race theory.
Yeah, yeah. Little
And
did I know that would be like a bomb, setting a bomb off in that group.
yeah, which is
I
so
had no idea.
but so
Um,
I guess like just to start, like what prompted that conversation? Because there actually was a project tied to that.
yes, exactly. So I'm currently working on a book that's around the centering around the racism against Asians. And mostly because it's escalated so much since the beginning of last year and with the beginning of COVID and everything, and how everyone just assumed that anyone who looked Asian or was from China or like anywhere from Asia was essentially the source of the virus as well. So I wanted to talk about that. And also just because it ties into my own feelings around identity too, because sometimes I didn't realize how much I didn't identify as Asian before, and especially like Asian Canadian, and I'm like second generation as well. So it's just like it was a really cool way to kind of understand where people are coming from, why they feel the way they do around like critical race theory, and how it actually impacts us as well.
Yeah.
And I know that like we had a really great talk about it too. So I love that we connected through that. So and I'm so grateful that you took the time to actually chat with me about it.
Oh, like, I mean, thank you for posting that, and I think it was just really amazing, like, I think it was really great that you just posted that, like, as a conversation, like, it wasn't for research, it wasn't for anything, you just posted, like, "Hey, like, can I talk to somebody about this?" And it was really interesting, like, peeking through the comments and seeing, like, what other people were saying, because there actually was, like, a very clear, like, divide with a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people on it.
I was really, really surprised by that because I don't really go on to Facebook all that much unless like I have a question or I'm just like randomly like bored for maybe like an hour on a Saturday night or something.
Yeah.
But it was just something that was top of mind for me, and I really wanted to just literally talk to someone instead of like having this like vicious debate or anything. And I remember one of the people who replied actually said, well, if it's not up for debate, then why are we even talking? I'm like, why wouldn't you want to talk? This is like, I'm not trying to debate, I just want to talk. And I think that's the biggest key point in this whole thing around like racism in general, I feel, is because we don't listen anymore. We don't want to just have these uncomfortable, albeit like all uncomfortable conversations about race. And I think it's so important that we actually have to sit and listen to one another instead of just trying to talk over each other or just like planning ahead and thinking of what you're going to be talking about.
Yes. No, I mean that like you hit the nail right on the head. Like it this is exactly why I started this show because like, it really I really felt like having a conversation was like it's important to have these conversations because like exactly for that because like we need to listen to each other more and a lot of these things like if you go into a debate and you go into it like thinking you need to argue, it's like you kind of already go in divided and then you don't realize that a lot of times like we actually agree on a lot of things. But, like, for the sake of
True.
arguing, we just, like we tend to, like, just disagree, and it kind of it doesn't then nothing moves forward, and so, having the ability to just sit down and converse about it in, like, in a albeit, like, as uncomfortable as it might be, but just being able to sit and listen to each other and pause and really understanding, like, where the other person's coming from because, I don't necessarily believe people are racist because like they just are like it's because of something that they've learned and
Hmm.
they're not like a lot of these things that we say are right or we say are left like no one is right or left because they're inherent like it's not genetic like it's something that they
Hmm.
and there's a reason they get there and so to be able to sit down and talk to each other and see why like someone thinks one way versus another way like it's much more human and I think it's more it's important for us to really be able to start doing that.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. Yeah, completely. I feel like a lot of times we need to just go back to what we learned in kindergarten, which is like listening skills.
Yeah.
Whatever we did, like we just
Did
have to raise
you
your
raise your
hand
hand?
to be quiet. If everyone had to be quiet and just like raise
Yeah.
your hand.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
But
God, you're
yeah,
funny.
it was like it was such a like this whole project was really fascinating, and I'm now kind of like have all the elements to kind of move forward with it too, which is really, really cool. And at the same time, it's really impacted me and how I started to see myself and just revisiting a lot of the stories that I used to think were normal, but then afterwards I'm like, oh, wait a second, no, that wasn't good. Just like how much I used to really align myself with, I guess, white culture in that sense, and just really turning my back on my own heritage. So it was, it was one of those things where like you just have to like sit in that discomfort and realize that, oh, you fucked up. But that's okay. Like that's okay. You're still learning because you're human.
Yeah.
And I think like we also forget that a lot. It's just everyone is human for the most part. Everyone's human and we're all still learning. And I think
Well,
that's
and it's
kind of why like I feel like cancel culture is a bit dangerous. It's a very dangerous like thin ice
I
kind of
agree.
situation.
I agree. I mean, it's I mean, think of it, it's impossible for anyone to know everything.
Oh
Like
my god, yeah, completely.
and so again, like as we go into these things, we have to remember, like, whoever we're talking to, like even though we're both Asian women, like we definitely don't have the same experience because like you grew up in Vancouver in like your second generation, you grew up in a community where there were a lot of Asian people, like, and I did not have that experience. I grew up in northern Nevada in the United States, where I was like one of five kids in my high school of who were actually of Asian descent. And
Hmm.
so like just any conversation we go into, like we have to keep in mind that whoever we're talking to is going to have a vastly different life experience than we are. And in that they're
Exactly.
gonna have a vastly different education than we are. Like and not just like school education, but just like, social education, cultural education, like all those things, like because yeah.
Yeah, and even just like socioeconomically too. I mean, like everyone has a different experience based off of like how much like money they came from or not cut like or well, like who were their parents before they came over here or if they were actually born here as well. It's just like there's all these like intersections, and I feel like I remember talking to someone about this, and she mentioned how it was she thought that intersections would be dangerous, and I thought that was a really fascinating way of thinking about that because I don't see it as it being dangerous or anything like that. It's just more it encompasses more because it gives us a more of a 3D view or even like more like yeah, 3D view of like people, I
Yeah.
feel.
No,
Mhm.
definitely. I mean, like as people, we are defined by more than one thing. Like even, women especially, like we see this a lot with women, we see this a lot with the queer community, we see this a lot with the trans community where like, those intersectionalities like really do like there's no way to avoid it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's trying to like put you into a specific box or category or anything that way, because when you're encompassing that Venn diagram of just that middle section of so many different parts, it just, I don't know, I feel like that's what also makes everyone so unique. And that's really cool because I'm definitely not like everyone else. There might be certain parts that I align with or I resonate with, but other parts are just like, oh hell no, I'm so not like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, especially and, like, especially when you start talking about, like, stereotypes and things like that, I was like, that like, I am not that kind of Asian. Like, they're
Seriously.
like, when they talk about, like, the super studious ones or whatever, like, I went to art school, like, I failed out of a lot of classes, like, I was a good student for a while, like, I was gifted and talented for a long time, but then I wasn't, and then I was like, "Okay, like, I'm like, am I not Asian anymore?" Like,
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Completely. Completely. Oh, wow. Yeah. Completely. Completely. Like the whole model minority myth thing and just being good at math all the time. Like, I suck at math. I mean, like,
yeah.
I can do like simple math. That's not a problem. But if you go into like more advanced stuff, I'm just, yeah, no, that's a different language to me. And I haven't learned it. So,
No,
mhm.
after geometry, I was like my brain was just like, "Yeah, what's the point?"
Oh my gosh. I remember I just came across a meme the other day. It said like, this is a triangle. You're like, yes, that is a triangle. And then they're like, prove it. I'm like, I literally see it's a triangle. Why do I have to prove it?
I was like,
It was
"Oh
so
my."
funny. But I think that it's also like it speaks to how we're seen in society too, where we're meant to be success stories or we're
Yeah.
meant to like be the people that they compare all other minorities to, which I think is such bullshit. Honestly, it's just like, why can't we just go on our own journeys? Why do you have to compare ourselves or try to use it as a way to oppress other people, and then which creates more resentment amongst all other people of color? I mean, why? Like, well, I mean, I know why, duh. But like, I mean, like, the point behind it is just, it's just so mind-boggling to me sometimes.
Yeah, well, you actually brought up an interesting point because, like, I was thinking about this the other day, and we talked about my dad earlier. Like, my dad always used to tell me, "Never compare yourself to other people." Like, if you want to talk about like your success or your failures, like, never compare yourself to someone else. And I always thought of it as like him telling me not to try to live up to somebody else, but like what you just said actually like resonated a lot more. It's like just comparing in any way because again, like we are all individuals and our experiences are all different. And so like comparing like either like, to someone better than you or someone worse than you, like it doesn't it's not good.
Exactly. That's amazing that your dad was super progressive. Like, oh my God. No, I'm only saying that because like my mom, like growing up, it was just like I was constantly being compared to like my cousins because she had straight A's and why couldn't I get straight A's? Or like the people in my dance class were like, oh, that girl's a lot skinnier. Why aren't you skinny? It's just like, well, I don't know. I have your genes. So
Yeah.
like there's
Like you
nothing to
tell
do about
me.
it. I know. Like, please tell me. Please explain to me this logic. But I just felt like, yeah, it was just this constant comparison, and it just became that story in the back of my mind all the time, which is why I still play into it sometimes, and I have to remind myself not to, or else it's just so distracting. And I think that's what it is. It's just like when you're comparing yourself to other people, it just becomes a huge distraction, and then you start to have to like you feel like to live up to someone else's standards versus your own.
Well, it becomes a
And
competition.
yeah, exactly. And then you start to see everyone as competition, which is so not the point here. It's just like
Right.
you are your own competition. You need to just really work on yourself. And that's why we're all here. We need to work on ourselves and to better ourselves that way.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like that's probably the biggest thing I've learned just in this year and doing this show is like is and talking to people is like learning I learned so much about myself by talking and listening to other people because it's like like not in that I'm comparing myself, but like, when they say things that resonate, it's like, oh wait, like, and then I'm able to look internally and see why that resonates with me. Like I've
Hmm.
definitely like I've been doing like I've been practicing that a lot.
That's amazing.
and it's been monumental in like in the way I've grown like just in the last year and just in these opportunities that I'm having now. It's like it's I don't think I would have gotten there if I hadn't gone through this journey of like learning all these pieces to myself.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope other people have also experienced that sort of growth and reflection, like through last year and even up to now, because that's how that my book project was for me. It's just a lot of examination, reflection, needing to tear everything down just to build it back up again from the ground up, clear without any sort of baggage or shit from like previous stories or just like previous like learnings and all that stuff. It was just a lot of unlearning and it was super painful, super painful.
It is. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of grief involved because like you are shedding like pieces of yourself. Like and you are shedding like identities, you're shedding people from your life. And
Hmm.
so it very much is like it's a very painful process, but at the end of it, and there's never truly an end to it, I don't think.
No. No.
But like it's so like it's like yeah, you're right. Like I hope other people are able to do this and start doing this and continue doing this as we move forward through all these changes that are happening.
Oh my God, for real. So, I mean, like, I would love it if people, even if they start now, if they didn't even, realize, like, if they never had the time to reflect from last year to now, it's just start now. Like, it's still okay. Like, it's not like you missed out on anything. Like, you can start at any time
Yeah,
and you
there's
can
no
still
report
have that.
cards, no due dates, like none of
Exactly. No, no mom, no Asian mom is grading you on this. So.
exactly. Okay, well, let's get into like the meat of our conversation. I wanted to actually talk to you about your writing. So, how did you get into writing nonfiction, and how did you decide what you wanted to write about?
I was writing nonfiction mostly because I wanted to tell like stories. And I mean, like, I've also done creative nonfiction and fiction too. But this time, I wanted to focus on like real stories from real people versus just like the people that live inside my head. So I, I wanted to just really talk about serious things. I feel like we need to lift other people's voices, and that's such a crucial, that's one of my pillars in my business for sure, because I want to be able to help other people to like to really discover their voice, and especially for people who are like marginalized or racialized in any way, because our it's those voices that are pretty much like they're invisible. And so I wanted to really help like uplift all of those voices because it's important to share our stories. And I truly believe that stories are like living beings. And if you don't nurture them, if you don't listen to them, if you don't actually take them in, and that person dies or passes away, then those stories are gone. Like there's like a complete, like it's like the branch has been cut off from the tree kind of thing to me. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of why I started going into it. And it's also like, I think from all the reflection from last year too, it made me realize how much I never even paid attention to the stories of my grandparents. I mean, like, granted, I only had my maternal grandparents when they were still alive, but I don't even know their stories from their childhood. I didn't know who they were. I mean, I only knew them as these old people who would take care of me sometimes and who would sometimes play with me or like aggravate me or any sort of way. And then again, when my dad died, it was just also like I missed out on all the stories that he had. Like he literally grew up in Chinatown and I have no clue what that was like. And I wish if I could turn back time, I would I would go back in time and just like talk to him and actually have conversations about his like the stories from his childhood, because even though I knew him as an adult, it wasn't like we didn't have those deep conversations. So I don't feel like I really truly connected with him in a way, if that makes any sense.
No, totally. Like I like and in that way, like I mean, we mentioned it when we first got on this call. Like I like in that way, I feel very privileged and lucky because like I mean, to be fair, growing up, like I thought my dad just would never shut up. Like he was a storyteller. He always told stories. He had a story for everything. And so
Mhm.
like, I again, like when I was younger, like I felt like, okay, like I'm gonna be stuck here for a while listening to this guy speak. And for like, and but now like now looking back on it and now doing this, like it's I feel like I'm so like amazed and privileged and lucky to have had that because I grew up with stories and so like and so I have that piece of him that is still there.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Even
have
though
you
like
st
I hated it at the time.
I know, I know. It's like when you're kids, though, you don't realize what they're actually doing and what they're trying to pass on to you. I mean, like the most I remember, like my dad passing on to me was how to buy oranges, and I'm like, I don't care about that when I'm a kid. No one cares about this. Like, why you have to look for the texture? Why you have to look for the shape? Like, no one cares. And now I'm really like, oh shit, yeah, I should have paid more attention.
Damn it.
But it was yeah, but it's just kind of like it like when you're children, like you don't really realize what they're trying to do or what they're like I said, like what they're trying to pass on to you. You're just trying to look for fun, essentially. So
Yeah.
yeah. So we're like as kids, we're all about instant gratification. And now also mostly because of social media. But I
Yeah.
mean
No, the internet was
but
dangerous in that.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I am grateful though, that I have actually connected more with my mom and listened to her stories from childhood, and actually, it's helped me to understand her even more. And that was just based off of me asking a simple question and listening, and sitting there and listening and absorbing, and just I'm working on a fictionalized version, like inspired by her story as well, like
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
another book. Yeah, yeah. So it actually healed our relationship a lot more. It's because I feel like a lot of people can actually do that too if they could just understand where people are coming from and just know that they're human. They are doing the best that they can based off of all the learnings and all whatever they grew up with too. And yeah, we're just all trying to do our best right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. But like, so speaking of doing, like, you actually are creating a program for other people to do what you do, to write nonfiction, to start sharing their stories. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, completely. So it's going to be like a month program, and it's taking them from creating the actual foundation for their book, like going deep into organizing their thoughts, organizing their stories, any sort of research that they may have or need to do on top of it, and just kind of going into like even talking about, say, if work experience also played into it too. And then we also go into a lot of the writing. I'm not teaching them how to write because I feel like their stories are already within them and they can tell their stories the way that they need to based off of their own voice. So I'm just showing them how they can actually let their voice shine through versus just like having to follow some formulaic way of telling a story, which let's be honest, it's like super boring. Because then like I feel like you don't really get to connect more with the reader that way. If
Yeah.
you're natural and you're just telling your story, it sounds so much better. It's like I keep reminding them it just needs to sound like you're telling this story to a friend. Like,
Yeah.
how would you tell this story to a friend? Because that is the way that you talk and that's the way that it needs to come out too. So, and it's a lot of like accountability check-ins throughout the 5 months. And then by the end of it, they can actually have a script that's ready to be edited and then to be published if they choose to do so.
After the 5 months, what is the key thing you hope people will take away from the program besides just the manuscript that they can publish or not publish?
Mhm. So I hope they take away the fact that they can actually just write their book, that their story matters, that their voice matters too, and that hopefully that'll actually show them how they can actually speak up in different situations. And even like I hope it'll also teach them that no matter what, they will have an impact on other people. And I think that's what we forget, that no matter like even if it's like few people, a handful of people, maybe 50 people, like they don't know what the ripple effect will be from them telling their story. And that in itself, I feel is so powerful. And it maybe if it ties within with their business, that's awesome. But at the same time, I feel like we just need to tell our stories and we just need to tell them before they come completely disappear.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so just to clarify, you this program that you're wanting to teach is was one that you've used. Like it's not just something that you're making up. Like you've used this to create your own stories as well.
Yes, yes, exactly. So I actually went through that just working on my own book. So like the nonfiction book that I'm currently working on and the fiction book currently working on, it all came from that, just like working through that. And it's also just based off of working off like clients one on one too. So yeah, so this would be like a group program. It's not a one on one thing. So you would be able to get access to me and be able to like be in a group community as well on Slack. And so people can share their wins. And I mean like share their wins as so like even the tiniest thing of just like I wrote a page today, fuck that is a win.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know why people feel like they need to like finish a book within a month because that's just why rush it. There's no need to rush it, honestly.
Yeah.
This is not NaNoWriMo kind of thing. So, but yeah, so it's basically what I went through, and it's just like, oh, like I remember just there were days when I would sit in front of my laptop and be like, I don't know what to write today. Like this is frustrating as hell. And then I had to come up with different ways to like think about, okay, what it's like what can I do to take my attention off of my focus off of this and just like going deeper and spiraling down into like some sort of depressed way of being, and then just kind of like being able to step away and to get fresh eyes again kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So then how like is this open to everybody or is there like an application process? How do people get involved in the program?
So they would be able to like can find the link to all the information through my web. Well, actually, my website's down at the moment, so they can go to my Instagram page and they can find me through there at Evelyn Storyteller. And then they can find more information there, and then we can hop on a discovery call just to see if we'd actually be a good fit. In essence, I'm trying to encourage more women to do it, and especially people of color to do it, like women of color, because I feel, or anyone who identifies as women, because I want to make sure that our voices don't get lost. And it's just, oh, because I feel like there's so many other voices out there that kind of overtake everyone. And
Yeah.
so this is an opportunity to kind of lift these marginalized, racialized, and like uh, most likely oppressed voices to come up.
As
Yeah.
you mentioned, you can find it on your Instagram, and I will have all those links and everything on my page and the captions and all that. Is there anything for anyone who just wants to like think about writing? Like, what do you want the people to know? Like, if they like if someone thinks that they have a story but they don't know if it's like worthy of writing, what do you want to tell them?
Oh my God. First of all, your story is always worthy of being written and being told. That, bar none, bottom line, that's just what it is. And even if they feel like they've never written before, if they are just like they've always wanted to write a book and they feel like within them, but then they just either were too busy or they just got distracted or like other things, like life gets in the way sometimes, right? That this program is for those people basically. And it's just like all I'm not even asking for like, okay, we're going to have long chats or anything like that. It's going to be like really short. There'll be co-working spaces too, so that people can just join in if they just need some sort of accountability, so they can do that as well. And then yeah, so it's just like if anyone who just feels like their story isn't worthy of being told, if they feel like it's too mundane, girl, like seriously, it's like everyone has mundane things in their lives. Whatever you see on Instagram is only 1% of what that person's life is actually like. So we need to like get out of our heads around that. Keep thinking that, oh well, I don't really do anything. It's like, no, you have a story. It took what, like 7 generations for you to be here right now. There was like a 1 in 4 something, 4 point something trillion chance of you being born. That's a freaking miracle in
Yeah.
itself. So your story is like your story is needed here, and you don't know what sort of impact your story may have on someone else. And I mean, like I was talking to someone and she was trying to talk about the story about being an expat, and everyone has these like rose colored glasses of what an expat life would be like. And she's just like, no, it is hard. It is really, really hard. And you don't speak the language. There's so much more red tape sometimes, depending on what country you're in. So she wants to talk about the realness of it. And I'm just like, yes, that sort of rawness is so needed right now. We don't need these polished stories of like, oh, rags or just like something that's just so perfect already. No, we want the vulnerability. We want the real because we're so tired of all the polished stuff that's out there right now. Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, no, like,
Mhm.
it's exactly like you said, like, the whole idea of, like, the rose-tinted glasses, it's really kinda warped our perception of reality, and then
Completely.
it gives us all self-esteem complexes, like
Yes, 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 exactly. And it's just so frustrating because I mean, like, and I still deal with this myself, where I'm just like, am I a writer? Oh my god, what hell? How is this actually gonna work? So, and like, I get into my head like that as well, and so I know exactly where so many writers are coming from, where aspiring writers are coming from, because you have something in your head and in your mind like that needs to be told, and it's just like you block it so many times by telling yourself that like, oh well, someone said to me that I was a shitty writer when I was like in grade 2 or something. It's like, well, no one is the best writer when they're in grade 2. Like,
Yeah.
you need to like you need to, it's like also working through a lot of the mental blocks and a lot of the creative blocks too in the program, because we come across those so often, and it's just so frustrating because I'm like, you are almost there, you're literally almost there, you just need to like break through that brick wall that's like blocking you right now. So I that's why I love, like, I'm sorry, I'm so passionate about this. It's like, oh
Oh,
my god, like, I
no, go
want to get on my
off, girl, go
soapbox and be
off.
like, look. But it's just I'm so passionate about helping other people to tell their stories because it's just like you have so much in you right now. Like, you can do this. And then so I can do like the tough love. I can also do the gentle reminder, the gentle nudges. But if those gentle nudges don't work, it's gonna be tough love, basically.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So, again, like we mentioned your Instagram, which is Evelyn Storyteller.
Mhm.
And then is there any other place we can go to find your other work or anything like that?
It's mostly all on my Instagram.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. And then I also edit for like I also edit manuscripts as well for other people, and so you can see that in like certain books if you want to look into them. But essentially, it's just I'm just working right now to kind of help other people to tell their stories, and a lot of those stories haven't been published yet. So I'm just like, okay, let's keep going. We can do it. We can do it.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you stay cool over there because I know, like, again, like this heat wave is no joke. Um, but yeah,
Yes,
thank you so much.
absolutely.
This was amazing. I can't wait to have more conversations with you. Like, and again, like, thank you so much for posting that whole thing about critical race theory. And I think that was such a again, like, I applaud you for that because it was so like it was very casual, but also like again, like you said, it set off a bomb in that comment section, and like, but I feel like a lot, like I feel like more people should do that, where it's like if they're curious about it, just post it and ask the question because like you know someone out there will be able to answer or will like at least like like someone out there will most likely be willing to sit down with you to talk it over.
Exactly. And I mean, and it was just a simple question. I wanted to just sit and listen to other people. And I actually made some friends out of it. So that's even better for me.
Like me. So thank you.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I mean, like that's why, like I feel if people could just like take, if that's the one takeaway that they get from this conversation, is just that I hope they're willing to actually sit and ask a simple question and then just to listen afterwards and just see if like if it makes you, and not to go in with it with a defensive mode or anything like that. It's just more to be open to like comes up, because you don't know what someone will say that will actually maybe impact you as well, and maybe that might spark something else within you. And that's why like I like these kind of conversations, because you don't know what sort of creativity spark will actually come out of it. So
Exactly. Yeah. No, and yeah, like I mean again, like I've noticed like when I've been having these conversations, like I actually like we tend to agree on more than we disagree on when we have these. Like so if you go into it as like a conversation as listening instead of like as an argument or as a debate, like I think people will be surprised like how much they actually do agree on things.
Exactly. And I think because like, I prejudge people a lot. I will put it out there. But like, I'm trying not to so much
And
nowadays.
we all do. It's another symptom of being human.
I know, exactly. And I feel like, especially as an Asian person, like, I don't know, been trained into us that like we just prejudge people based off of certain things. But for the most part, I try not to do that. And then I try to just like be open. And that's a practice that I'm trying to continue to really hone right now, because it can be really difficult, especially when a voice inside my head says, well, no, no, that's not right. Oh, well, it's like, well, no, no, no. Just let's listen to them and see where they're trying to go with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can agree or not. And see, that's the other thing. It's like we can disagree. Like, it's okay to not agree on every single little thing. I don't know why we've become this culture of just like, well, I don't agree and therefore we're enemies kind of thing. It's like, no, we
Yeah.
can disagree. It's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you're absolutely right. Like, cause again, like it all comes down to like our individual experiences and our individual, educations and how we've come up in the world because like that, like all those things are going to shape our worldview and are going to shape our opinions. And
Hmm.
so like we have to at least like have empathy enough to understand that like someone might think this way because of something that they've experienced that we haven't.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, as long as you can maybe just sit there and listen and then maybe explain your side, without arguing, like just explain it without just kind of being heated, maybe that other person can actually take the time to listen to where you're coming from too, and you can actually meet in the middle somewhere. And I'm
Right.
just like, and I know that sounds such a like, oh, we can create a utopian paradise or anything. No, no, no. I understand that humans are not like
Right.
we're
Right.
constantly being wired to like fight all the time. But for the
Yeah.
most part, I really, really do hope that people get a chance to tell their stories, and just so that we can actually listen and just understand one another more.
Yeah. No, like totally agree with that. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I can't wait to talk more with you and to see all your work come out.
Yeah,
And to
thank you
enjoy
so
some.
much for this. This was so much fun, Christy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much to Evelyn for coming by and chatting with us. This was such a great conversation, and again, like I do applaud her for just having the courage to post that question, not for anything else but a conversation. I hope other people will take that example and run with it as well, because I think it's so important for us to be able to just take that moment and pause and learn about things like critical race theory or about our other experiences. That's exactly why I started this show. I'm gonna have her information, her Instagram, the program information in the captions and also on my social media pages. So keep an eye out for that if you are interested in all and just you have a story you think like even if you don't think it's worthy of sharing, like if you're just curious, like please go check that out. And once again, thank you all for coming here and opening your minds, opening your hearts, and having these conversations. It is so important for us to keep doing this, and I applaud you for being able to do that with me. So thank you so much. Cheers, and I can't wait to sit with you again next week.